Hey YouTube, welcome back. If you're looking for a build guide for the 092 patch with Rune Master and all the sweet stuff that comes along with it, you're gonna have to wait for a day or maybe 2 days. Give me a moment. I love my build. But first, we're gonna talk about something very important. One of the biggest meta shakeups that happened in 092 came in the patch notes as well. Take a look at what we have here on the screen. We have Bastion of Honour. Bastion of Honour now grants block chance per strength, something. It got a different base type, sure. Rarer, lower chance of having legendary potential. Bastion of Honour got triple, perhaps quadruple, and I don't know the word for 5, but maybe 5 times nerfed in this patch for 092. I hate Bastion of Honour. I have been an advocate against it for a long time. I think most people who play Last Epoch have not been in favor of Bastion of Honour. It's just way too strong. We're going to talk about these nerfs. We're going to talk about why I don't like these nerfs. Even as someone who doesn't like Bastion of Honour, I think these nerfs are too much. This will be a short video. We're going to talk about what Bastion of Honour was in the past, what it was in the past, when it first got introduced, and why I don't like these changes now. So before we talk about where we are, let's talk about where we've been. In the past, when Bastion of Honour was first introduced to the game, quite frankly, I thought it was a meme, because how could you ever have an item in the game that has 100% block chance against nearby enemies? It's absurd. And the reason that you could even consider having 100% block chance in Last Epoch is that Last Epoch deals with block differently than other games do. Some games have block effects. Last Epoch does it as well. It's not every single game. For example, in Path of Exile, if you block a hit, you block all the damage from that hit. In Last Epoch, that is not true. In Last Epoch, if you block a hit, that means that your block effectiveness is applied to that hit. So let's take a look at tunklab.com here. This is lastepoch.com/tunklab.com. Search Tunklab, you'll find it. In any case, Tunk put together this website. It's a great way of visualizing what block chance is and how much damage you're mitigating with it. The y-axis is your damage mitigation against hits, not against damage over time, of course. And we can scale this out if you want to see a different kind of graph, but let's just do this. And we'll see that pretty quickly you face the extremely heavy diminishing returns around 85% of your 85% damage reduction if you have a billion block effects and maximum block chance. So assuming that you block, this is what your damage mitigation looks like. Let's go like this here. When Bastion of Honour was first introduced to the game, it had 100% block chance against nearby enemies. It also was on a strong base type where it had 800 block effectiveness. And it had less damage taken from nearby enemies. So it was guaranteed block chance, which turns the block equation from block chance plus block effect to just block effect. It had good block effect as the implicit modifier, and it had another less damage taken modifier on it. It was absurd. And it was pretty common. You could join a weekend race that only lasted for 3 days and be relatively certain that you would even find one. It was absurd. After that, they removed the what do you call it? The less damage taken from nearby enemies in 085. So they took that off, and all of a sudden, Bastion of Honour was only guaranteed block chance and health and flat physical damage for your melee attacks. Okay, it was only 100% block chance, but it still had a really good block effect base. So one of the issues with that is that if you had the 800 block chance from the base type itself, assuming that your implicit's well rolled, and you also had the block effect blessing. The block effect blessing was, I might need Twitch chat to help me here, but the block effect blessing puts you right about here. It was like 600 at max roll, right? So it was like 800 plus 600, like 1400 or something. If you had a good implicit on your Bastion, and then you had the block effect blessing, and that was your entire dedication to block and block effect. You had nothing else in your build. So the opportunity cost is super, super low. The only thing you're really giving up is the blessing, which could have been percent armor, I suppose. And what you got was 40-ish, 41, 42, 40, about 40% damage reduction against everything all the time. It was easily the best shield in the game. As time went on, there were some other shields that could compete with it. And Bastion was super strong for how little investment that it had. However, there were other items that were introduced as well. Some of the other items, we're going to take a look at these really quickly. Let's go. Let's look for the Apocalypse Shield. There's 2 shields that I want to mention to you that are noteworthy for this conversation. The Apocalypse Shield, Bulwark of the Last Abyss, is noteworthy because it has a good base of 35% block chance. It rolls up to 20% block chance, and it's a unique item that you can farm with LP, and you can get more block chance on it. So if you get this thing, plus block chance, plus like tier 6 to tier 7 block chance, you could get 80, 90, 95, and in extreme cases, you could even get capped 100% block chance because you have a unique item and you're getting LP on it and you're building around it and you're really going out of your way to get maximum block chance. And it's better than Bastion of Honour because it applies at distance and not just at 4 meters around your character. The other shield that is noteworthy here, as we scroll, is Face of the Mountain. And Face of the Mountain is an excellent example of what block chance could be. This is an item that only the real min-maxers and the sweaty tryhards were even caring about. Because this item allows you to get maximum block chance and be super tanky if you build around it. Bastion of Honour, you just put it on and it's excellent. It's absurdly strong. But Face of the Mountain is stronger if you can get it with LP and block chance, if you build endurance on your gear, if you go out of your way to skew what kind of items you're looking for and how you're building your character in order to incorporate Face of the Mountain. Really, really nice design. I like it. Very cool. So we have 2 shields that compete with it. And then we have Bastion of Honour. And the various nerfs to Bastion of Honour over time have been make it more rare. Make it rare. Make it rare. Make it even rarer. Rare. And like, if the item exists in the game, people will find it. And as soon as they find it, it's the only shield that matters, and it introduces all the problems that you had before about Bastion of Honour. It's so boring if the only thing you do is to nerf the rarity, to make it harder to find. Hate that. So let's take a look at the patch notes. This is where we started the video. Let's come back to it. Now grants 1% block chance per strength against enemies within 4 meters instead of 100% block chance. So instead of having 100% block chance, now it's like a strength stacking item. So if you have like 50, 60, 70 strength, I guess you can do this. Cool. That's fine. They also did this. They changed the base type. Instead of having 25 block chance as the implicit, they changed it to a 14% block chance implicit, which is a great change. It means you need to build around it, you know, like by building strength. And they also nerfed the block effect. Instead of being 600, 800, which is absurd, 320 to 400. Yeah, like that a lot. If the only change they made was that first line of text, I would say this is a good change. It's cool, it's dynamic, it's a build around me. It's not for everybody. You can't just put it on your Flame Reeve Spellblade character. But if you want that block chance, you can build around it, and that's fun. I like building around stuff. If the only change they made was the second change, where they changed it from a good base type to a bad base type, that would have been interesting as well. Because instead of having 800 plus 600, you'd have the 600 blessing plus 400, which puts you, instead of being about 42-ish% damage reduction, you would only have, oh my god, numbers real quick. You'd have 600 plus 400 is 1,000. Where's 1,000 put us? It puts us at about 35% damage reduction at max roll. So instead of having 42 damage reduction at max roll, you have 35 damage under max roll. It's a step in the right direction. The block effect formula is very strong. Without Bastion of Honour, I think the block effect formula is fine. But with the OG Bastion of Honour, the block effect formula was too strong. It rewarded you too much for having too little investment. When you have both of those levers, block of chance and block effect, it's fine. But if you only care about block effect, it's too strong. So if the only change they made was the first line of text, good. If the only change they made was the second line of text, good. If they make both of these changes, I think that might even be too much of a nerf. I mean, it's fine, right? It's fine. It'd probably be okay. If the only changes they made to Bastion of Honour in this patch were these 2 lines of text, I'd be like, okay, it's a new item. Cool. But they did this, and they did this, and they made it rarer, and with an even lower chance of having legendary potential. And you start to scratch your head. There's one more thing that I haven't showed you here. Let's go Control F. By the way, if you're using this website, don't Control F. Go Control FF and then start typing. They made a change to blessings. And the blessings right here. Instead of giving up to 800 block effect, oh my god, all the numbers that I gave you were wrong. I thought it was 600 block effect. So much block effect. Why so much? Instead of being 500 to 800 block effect, it only gives you up to 240 block effect. So they nerfed the base type, which is the block chance and the block effect. They nerfed the blessing, and they nerfed the strength, and they made it rare, and they made it harder to find. And while all of those things are going on, we still have the Apocalypse Shield. We have the new Weaver's Will Shield. We have the Endurance Shield, the Face of the Mountain, or the Shield of the Mountain, whatever it's called. And it starts to paint this picture of like, why all of these things at the same time? The only change, basically, that they made to Bastion of Honour over the last couple patches was to make it more rare. And then this patch, they do 2 really interesting changes. But then they also make it more rare. And they make it hard to find with LP. It's just... I would like if there's a build out there that wants to use Bastion of Honour. I would like if there's people who end up recommending it. A couple months from now, when we have a bunch of build guides for the 092 patch, I hope that there's someone out there who's using Bastion of Honour in a justifiable way. But for the people out there who are new players, who don't already have the item, and who are just now starting to play Last Epoch, why is it so rare? It's just okay compared to these other things. I don't understand why is it so rare. Somebody made a comparison to this item here. And this is an item that I often see come up on Reddit. People are like, oh man, how do you find the Paranoia helmet? I don't think this helmet's good at all. I think it's garbage. I think it's a very bad helmet. On top of that, on top of not simply being another helmet or being a... it doesn't do anything. It's also very rare. It's bugged. It's bugged too. I love it. It's bad. I don't like this helmet. It's bad. It's bugged. And it's very rare. It's a very rare helmet. It's hard to find. And the effective level for LP is 85. Like, why is Paranoia one of the rarest items in the game, and it's kind of bad, and it's hard to get with LP? Why did Bastion of Honour get quintuple nerfed? I don't understand. That's the video. That's the whole thing that I wanted to tell you. I'm angry, and I wish they would have made 1 change or 2 changes, or both of those changes, but the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th, I'm just... Maybe the YouTube comment section knows something that I don't know. Maybe Twitch chat knows something that I don't know. But I'm going to put these words out into the universe, and hopefully I can learn something in the meantime. The build that I am playing in 092 is insane. I'll tell you about it soon. See you next time.